Dang, I don't get to see you ever.
Yeah,
That's
even
true.
to my friends. But yes, I do that to y'all too. And I could just be like, hey, I miss y'all. Like, y'all should call me. Y'all should do this.
Is that
And
how it
would,
comes out?
but I'm saying, I said I could.
I was like-
I don't think I've ever heard Moyo say, I miss you.
If I was an effective communicator, which we can see now that apparently I'm not.
Welcome to
We Grwn.
Question mark?
I'm Shaun.
I'm Moyo.
I'm Jess.
And first things first, what had you feeling grown?
So I have a lot of things that have had me feeling grown lately, but I'm just gonna give one. A while back we did a road trip and Shaun and I were in the back and I was playing my games on my iPad because I do that. And apparently that's an old people thing because Shaun immediately is like, what game is this? And I think it was maybe Gummy Drop, like one of those puzzle games. One of those puzzle games where you have to break the things. And he's like, oh, okay. And then I opened another one and it was like a word game. Like all my games have you like thinking. It's to help your
It's
brain.
the ones that's supposed to help you keep your brain like young and vibrant.
Listen, I'm trying to keep my brain young and vibrant. Is that too much to ask?
I was just like, okay, you do you.
Okay,
like,
but then he started getting really into the games with me back there.
yeah, because I was good at them. Like the word one, I was like, fire. I was like, oh, this is the answer.
Yeah, but anyways, yes, that had me feeling grown. Cause I was like, dang, I thought everybody did this, but maybe not.
I do play the SpongeBob one on, yeah, like Netflix has like a whole list of games and stuff on your phone. I don't know, you got iPhones. So.
Netflix on your phone?
Yeah. I don't know if they have
Games?
it on iPhones, but I know that they have it on our kinds. So
I'm gonna have
Our
to check
kinds.
that.
yeah, they have like
Netflix
it's
on
like
my
a
phone.
variety of them. So you're working doing like Krabby Patties, even though I haven't made it to the Krabby Patty section yet. I'm still
Interesting.
on pancakes.
See, that sounds like regular. That doesn't sound like a.
It doesn't sound like
thinking
you're
game.
using
No, it's
your
not
brain.
a thinking game.
Oh, okay.
It's a
So I'm still
regular,
old? Okay,
not
cool.
old people game.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what had me feeling grown.
Old people.
It's a podcast, it's a video, and more.
Okay.
So, moving into today's topic, we are continuing in our Marriage Be Hard series where we're reviewing the book Marriage Be Hard by Melissa and Kevin Fredericks. And so today's topic is chapter 2, which is Communication Be Hard. So, in chapter 2, just to give like a quick overview, they share, how they've communicated throughout their relationship from the beginning where, sometimes you say something or you don't say anything to not offend, or you say something with the expectation that that person understands, and then there's a misunderstanding. So they go through a lot of examples of how they've had miscommunication situations and misunderstandings from either not communicating or just not communicating in an effective way. So with that, I want to ask y'all, how would y'all define effective communication?
For me, I would say being able to tell your partner or whoever you're talking to something in a way where they fully understand what you mean. Because sometimes we say things and there's undertones or like there are things that are you think are unspoken, like it should already be known.
Yeah. Assumptions.
And yeah, that's the word, assumptions. And we all know what they say about assumptions. So we don't want to do that when we're trying to communicate effectively. Like being as clear as possible. Just being as clear as possible and making sure that I would say asking the person, like, what did you hear me say? Like, what do you understand from that? And just being able to allow them to say what they've heard and not get mad if it wasn't what you were thinking, but to then go back and say, okay, I understand this is what you heard. Let me clarify some more. And however many iterations that takes for y'all to be clear about exactly what you, going back to expectations, exactly what you expect or exactly what you're trying to convey. That's the best way I think you can be effective in communicating.
Mm-hmm.
What was the question?
How would you define effective communication?
Okay. Communication is hard to me. Like putting a definition on it. I think that communication, there's really like two parts of communicating. So there's the person that is giving
Mhm.
information. So you have to be able to give it in a way that another person is able to receive it. So, like you were mentioning the undertones and all, like you have to make sure that your intentions are clear.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, like that's hard because you can still communicate and not have your intentions be clear. It's just bad communication.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to put forth energy, and some kind of message to another person. But then the second half of it is being able to receive
Mm.
communication. And I know that's something I struggle with. So like I can do like a tip on how to do it, but I guess if I try and like explain it, describe it. Like you have to be able to actually receive the information, be able to acknowledge the communication that has been given to you. Um, I mean, whether that's just, when you're listening, you hear a lot of it like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
yeah. You have to be able to like summarize what the communication was, and then be able to like ask questions. But there's also different kinds of communication. So whether that's verbal, nonverbal, because there are definitely ways to communicate without somebody using words.
Mhm.
So that's it, being able to pick up on body language. That's huge. Eye contact, things like that. So
Yeah. And I think Melissa talked about, or maybe Kevin did, talked about how his wife told him, like, oh, I can say something to you and you may not say anything, but I know that when you react a certain way, this is what it means. So I'll pivot and maybe say it a different way so that you aren't offended. And he said, yeah, I don't do that. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah, it
don't
was Melissa.
read
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't read into your things that deeply, and maybe I
Mhm.
should be. But at the same time, maybe we should just all, speak our minds instead of making people read our body language.
but sometimes it's just part of it. Like you don't know. I know for me, I don't always necessarily know 100% what I might be feeling. So trying
Mhm.
to portray that and explain that through words might be more challenging for me to do. And you
Yeah.
might be able to pick it up more on like a cue that I did that I wasn't aware of.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Would you want someone to be like, "Hey, you seem like you're coming off this way. Is that how you're feeling?" Or would you just want them to take it and then move accordingly?
I know with John, usually I just have to talk. And it's not necessarily like waiting for him to give me like an answer or like respond a certain way. It's usually just me trying to work out my thoughts themselves. But that's also, I mean, he's usually pretty good at knowing when that's the case because I think it depends on the follow up questions that I ask.
Yeah.
Because I might say, like, so what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Mhm.
Versus like me just going on some long tangent and then I'm like, cool. And then I just leave. And then he's like, oh, so I guess you didn't need anything. Like, you just
Yeah.
needed to get that out.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
could get that.
Yeah.
I think for me, I do a lot of nonverbal communicating, but I am not the type to want you to try to figure it out. Like I'm figuring it out, and once I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, if my husband says like, "Are you okay?" or "Are you good? Are you mad?" I'll be like, "I might be." Like,
Yeah,
give
yeah,
me a minute.
seriously. Yeah.
Give
I
me a
need
minute to figure this out.
Yeah.
And he'll give me a minute to figure it out. And when I calm down a little bit, I can be like, "This is what my issue is." And I feel like I've gotten better at that because before I used to be mad, say I'm mad, but never like say exactly what the issue was.
Mhm.
And he would either figure it out or not figure it out, and then I would just be mad. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for me, effective communication is definitely like that sending and receiving of whatever thoughts or message you're trying to convey. And the main thing is for me to understand what you're saying, and I want them to understand what I'm saying. Um, I think for me, it just starts with me processing, like similar to you, where it's just like, I know my emotion right now, and I can identify that either I'm annoyed, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm upset, but I need to process why
Yeah.
before I can like let you know what's going on. So like saying like, "Oh, what's wrong?" or "Are you okay?" like it's kind of a loaded question depending on like how I'm feeling. So it's just like, "Okay, I just need a minute to figure it out." Like I've gotten better with just saying that versus just being like, or just not saying anything or lashing out or getting an attitude about something. So it's definitely just more so processing, that internal processing of, okay, what upset me or what has me feeling some kind of way? Why do I feel that way? How is this person's fault or somebody else's fault, or is it me? Is it something, just I'm sensitive or something like that, or
Mhm.
just a sensitivity that they may not have even known. I know for us, like, a big part of our miscommunication issue is usually just assumption, like assuming the person thought of this or
Yeah.
knew that I was thinking about this or talking about this. So we're doing a lot better with like making sure we're clarifying like what we're talking about or whatever the subject is, especially like, via text. It's very hard. Like sometimes you just shoot off a quick text, or he can't really have his phone out at work, so it's just like, okay, we'll wait to have a call, or yeah, we'll just wait to have that conversation like in person, because sometimes it's just harder to convey all the information when you're just trying to, be quick about it.
Yeah. In the book, they defined it as being effective communication as being honest, transparent, and vulnerable. Um, and they gave really
Mm.
good examples, which we aren't gonna go like that deep into that, but something to look at. Um, Trying to think of all of those things when you're communicating with someone, um, especially the vulnerability part. Like sometimes you
Girl.
want to say something, but you don't want to put yourself out there. Like,
Mm.
Vulnerability is like exposing your squishy parts that are the most sensitive, and you don't want anybody to like cut into them or rip them apart. So you're really protective of that. So like
Mhm.
to be vulnerable means to just expose that squishy part. Like take off your armor and just be like, okay, like I don't even know if it's really humble or humility. Like it's such an exposed feeling. Like you're putting
Mhm.
yourself out there.
yeah,
So yeah, that vulnerability is woof hard.
yeah. So with the whole vulnerability and exposing yourself, I think not doing it is where those misunderstandings come
For
in.
sure.
So if I'm feeling, I'm trying to think of an example. Um, if I want my husband to be around, but I feel like you should know that I want you to be around.
Mm,
If I just said, "Hey, I just want you to be around. Like I don't want you to go anywhere. I don't want you to go to your man cave or whatever. I just want you to lay here with me."
mm-hmm.
It seems easy to say in this moment, like with you
Yeah.
guys, but when I'm in that moment, like being vulnerable and saying, "Hey, like I just want you to stay with me," is not as easy as it seems. It's like, dang, you don't want to be with me? You don't want to hang out?
Bruh.
You don't want to just lay here with your wife that you haven't seen all day?
I feel like we hear that from Moyo too. Like, dang, I don't get to see you ever.
Yeah,
That's true.
even to my friends. But yes,
Yes.
I do that to y'all
It's like-
too. And I could just be like, "Hey, I miss y'all. Like, y'all should call me. Y'all should do this."
Is that
and
how it comes out?
But I'm saying, I said I could.
I was like-
I don't think I've ever
If I
heard
was an
Moyo say, "I
effective-
miss you."
If I was an effective communicator, which we can see now that apparently I'm not.
It's like,
like-
oh, okay.
I was like, "Oh, that's how those words sound coming out of her mouth." Okay.
My husband too. He gonna be like, "Oh, you can say that? Okay, cool."
That the other day, John's usually somewhere in the house, and I always find him. I'm like, you can't hide from me. Like, I always know where you are. So I'm just like, okay, just checking in. Like, I see you're there. Bye. And then like one day, I don't know what he did. He like went upstairs, and then I didn't go upstairs, and then it was probably like an hour later. I went upstairs, and he was all mad, like you didn't come up here and look for me, and I was like, I was doing something. And he was like, but you always come up and look.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I was busy. And he's like, you can go. I was like, why are you so mad? You were
Because
supposed
you
to
didn't
look.
check
I was
on
like,
me.
he's like, I was like, well, why didn't you just tell me? Like,
It
if you
makes
wanted me
sense
to,
to me.
if you wanted me to come upstairs, why didn't you just say? He was
No.
like, because you always just come upstairs anyway. And I was like, but I didn't come upstairs. I was like, I was doing something. He was
Sean,
like,
we don't want to hear this.
was
We
just
don't want
like-
to hear anything you're saying right now because he makes perfect sense to me. If you do it every time, why not text me that, hey, I'm busy right now. I would come check
I
on
was
you.
in the house.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But that's the thing. On both sides, it's communication.
Yeah.
Because if you always do something,
He has
and
the
then
expectation.
yeah.
Yeah, I
If
was
you
like,
always do it,
if you wanted me to come upstairs, why don't you just tell me to come upstairs?
but he didn't want you to come upstairs.
No, he wanted me to.
expected you to come upstairs.
He said, "Oh, I wanted you to come upstairs."
Yeah, because he had the expectation that that's what you were going to do because that's what you do.
What did
And so
he
you broke rhythm, you broke habit. So it's like, don't interrupt this rhythm.
I suppose.
I get it. But also, it's,
Yeah, I
it's,
do, yeah.
it all gets tied back. Like
Yeah.
if he would have just texted you, you could have been like, "This is what's going on." Or on the other side, if you would have known, "Hey, I always do this. Maybe I should just text him and be like, I'm busy doing X, Y, and Z."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know which side of this is the right or the wrong side. I know which side I lean towards because
Yeah.
that's what I do. But you can't fault the other person for just not
But-
reading
yeah,
your mind,
yeah.
basically.
I mean, because I think it was just the fact that like, it's not that I didn't check up on him. Like I had done it earlier in the day. Like this was probably like 11 a.m. and I saw him downstairs. Went down. Oh, okay, you're down here. And then he went upstairs. I was just like, okay. But it was just funny. It just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Where it was like, well, how was I supposed to know that you
Mhm.
wanted me to come up here?
Mhm.
Well, you always come up here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
just
like we
funny.
have something like that. Like he's pretty ritualistic about his bedtime. And so I rely on his rhythm to kind of like cue me up to be like, oh, okay, and now it's time to start winding down. Let's go to bed. So there was times where he would just go to bed, and I'm like, so you live in this house by yourself? You sleep by yourself now? Like, excuse me? So now he's like, okay, I'm going to bed, or I'm gonna start getting ready for bed, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I feel like I'm wanted, and like it always comes back to something in me internally,
Yeah.
at least for me. So for me, it might be like not really abandonment issues, but it's just like I want to feel wanted, just to be around, just like, oh, I enjoy your presence. I enjoy, having you around kind of thing. Even though I know these things, in those moments, it's just like, oh, so you brand new now, huh? You don't want to be around me? You just trying to get rid of me? You just, okay, got it. But yeah, so he started doing like, okay, I'm getting ready for bed now. And so I'm like, okay. Either I let him know like, oh, I still have stuff to do. I'll be there in a minute. And it's less tension. Because there's been, like I said, if at first when he would just go to bed, I'm just like, all right, I'm going to get in this bed and I'm going to turn every light on. I'm going to make all the noise. I'm going
Petty.
to brush my teeth right next to him while he's trying to sleep. Listen, petty knows no bounds for me. So, yes. And also working on that. But
Is she?
I am. I am.
See
am.
these reels that she did of me when I didn't even do the last reel.
Don't. That's because y'all can't catch me slipping. But eventually,
Post
I'm
the
waiting for my
Post
reel.
the basketball video. I got
Lord.
one coming.
Got one in the chamber.
That's fine. Don't worry. I'm gonna still post it. I'm gonna still repost it. It's fine. And I'm gonna have my little comments. Communication.
Yeah. So okay. So I have you guys? I don't even know how to put that. Do y'all experience kind of like a negative? Like I don't even know how to word it. I'll just tell a story.
Okay.
So, the other day, John and I were hanging up posters, or we're hanging up pictures in our bedroom. So looking at the wall, and then John's like, "It has to go this way," and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't think it goes that way." And he's like, "I'm good at math. I got this." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then he's like, "Yeah, like it goes like this and goes like this," and I'm just looking like, "That's wrong. I know it's wrong." So I was petty that day. So I had to get out my little sheets of paper. So I was marking where on the paper, using it as the wall to like, this is where you said it. And right here, I was like, but you ain't want to hear mine because you're good at math and all. So this is where I would have put it. And then he looked at it like, I guess that's right. And I was like, but no, we can do what you were going to do. Like, that's fine. Go ahead and put it on the wall. So that was like a communication barrier that we had. I just don't know how to like word that.
Have we had those type of It's kind of like a "I told you so" moment, but without saying "I told you so."
Maybe.
I feel like I have those moments all the time.
I just didn't know what to call that.
Yeah,
I call them conflict. Like it's not like a bad thing, but it's just like conflicting views and perspectives, and one person is like beholden to theirs, and the other person is beholden to theirs, and it's just a matter of, okay, how are we gonna move past this? Like, I think that's just about any relationship. Like,
Yeah.
somebody's gonna have like, well, this is what I know for a fact, and I can back it up with facts, and then this person might feel the same way. So how do we
Move forward.
Yeah.
Like, how do we get
Yeah.
past?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it was an argument. Like,
yeah,
we both
yeah.
were like,
And that's the
no,
thing. It's
like,
not an argument. It's
because
just
John was looking at it from
difference.
like a mathematical point of
Mhm.
view, and then I was looking at it as like a graphic design point of view. So I
Mhm.
was like, I feel like I can see this differently than what you can. Like, yours
Yeah.
makes sense on paper. I get that, but I was like, it doesn't look right.
Mhm.
So I was just like, huh, that was
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. So how did you resolve it?
Using my sheet of paper.
Oh, so he
Yeah.
agreed after the sheet of paper.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the paper, I mean, like, it was hard to,
Explain
like,
it
because it's
verbally.
easier to see it when it was like, okay, so before we nail this to the wall, let's look at this on the piece of paper. So I had all the folds and like, this is where it's gonna go
Mhm.
proportionately, and it's like, okay, I can see that now.
Yeah.
And then I had to be, but you so good at math, like,
Yeah.
You still had to be shady.
yeah, I
Yeah,
had
of
to do
course.
it. So that was
A
my
little
line
country.
for the next like week. But you
But
good
that
at
was
math.
really good for you to have done that. Like, I would have let him put it on the wall and then been like, so you want to try my way now?
Oh, he realized it too and was like, maybe it is. And I was like, you gonna look at this piece of paper. Like, I didn't already started folding and I gotta show you.
Yeah.
Petty. Just a little. But I'm not petty. John knows I'm not petty.
Let John comment in the comments so
Please.
people can know.
Please.
Do you guys ever feel like you're keeping score in your marriage?
I try my best not to. And what's funny is because before we got married, we were in counseling, and that was like something that I said up front that I did not want to do, because I've seen that before, and it's pointless. It's really pointless, and it doesn't help either person. It doesn't help the other person do better. It doesn't help you as the scorekeeper feel any better about that person or about whatever is not being done, or
Yeah.
the score is being kept over. So I forgive, but I don't forget.
Mhm.
But there's grace. I think that's the biggest difference, is just like humanizing another person before you really just like add that as a tally. So like, oh, like I've been doing the dishes for the past 5 days and you haven't done the dishes at all. Like, maybe they've had a hard week. Maybe something is on their mind. Like, reminding myself that he's also human, that he has bad days, that, he's tired, or, like, just remembering the human side of him, I think helps with not keeping score, because I would hate for somebody to keep score when I'm not having the best time or I
Yeah.
feel overwhelmed. So,
Yeah, and that's funny because literally last night, Remarcus makes the bed most of the time, so I'll take the stuff off, or sometimes he takes it off and I'll wash it and stuff. So he's like, "Are you gonna help me?" And I was like, "Did you help me do the laundry today?
Ooh.
Did you help me do X, Y, and Z today? Did you help me?" And there was like a list of things I had done that day, yesterday. And he was like, "No." Then can you just move then? And I was like, yes, I can move actually, because I don't feel like helping you. But yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. now that we're talking about this,
It's always
Yeah.
funny when you just go back and like,
maybe I was
Yeah.
wrong.
yeah. Like, I should,
Sometimes.
like, maybe I didn't need to draw them papers out, but
I know this chapter. I feel like talking about it now, like I listened to it and I was like, oh, these are good points.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
did I take any of it to heart? No.
Yeah.
But now that I'm talking about it, I'm like,
Yeah, I think it's
dang, maybe I should-
re-solidifying.
Yeah.
As I read it, I could definitely, like, I started to try and put things in place. John's probably gonna be like, no, you didn't. But in my head, I did. But coming back to the score, I would say early in our relationship, we probably did more scorekeeping. I would say I probably did it a little less because usually I forget a lot of stuff. Like usually it just be gone. I'm like, oh dang it! Like I was
Mhm.
supposed to remember this and hold this, and then I don't. Unless it's like a joke thing, like the math thing. Like I do that just for fun, just to play around with him, because it wasn't really anything serious whatsoever. But I would say earlier in our relationship, like I remember John would be like, "Balls in your court," and I was like, "Why the ball in my court?" I was like, "We on the same team.
Yeah.
This
You
the same
fair?
basketball team." And then after that, like, I mean, that was way long time. But we were little lads.
Oh, we
But
were little lads.
that has like changed. So I would say we definitely have moved past that, and now we think of it more as we're on the same team versus
Yeah.
we're playing against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I-
definitely a big theme for us, like being told in counseling, like same team, like keep the main thing, and they actually say it in the book too. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah.
But that's actually funny too, because I think you were on the phone with me that one night when Marcus was like,
Oh
"You
yeah,
still do
yeah,
this?
yeah. Mhm.
Y'all haven't gotten past that." And then I think I said, because again, communication, like there are things that I do in my marriage just out of I don't want issues. But he's taking it as we've done moved past that. So we're good.
Yeah,
And I was just like,
yeah.
I mean, I do these things because I was tired of communicating about it. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
not because I like to do them or I've gotten past it, or like, because he was making it seem as if you guys were, well, you were kind of scorekeeping, but
Yeah, in that case, yeah. I mean, that was no, I guess it wasn't different. But yeah, in that case, yes, because it was one of those things where it's just like we had an agreement, and if you don't,
and it was a communicated agreement.
yeah, yeah. If it was a communicated agreement, then I'm gonna hold you to it, and I'm gonna badger you about it, and I'm gonna be petty if I have to, because what's said is said, kind of thing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and in our case, I think it's also probably a communicated thing where I said, okay, if you're not going to do X, Y, and Z, then I'll at least do this to give you the clue. Like for example, trash. I like trash taking out as soon as it's getting full. I don't need it to be overflowing before you take it out.
yeah.
So I will pull it out and I will put it to the side so that he knows to grab it.
Mhm.
And that helps him a lot, because if I say go take it out of the thing, then he's like, it's not even full yet. Or he'll push it down and I'm like, bro, don't do that. Like, just take it out.
Mhm.
And so he's like, well, that was a compromise for us, which it was. But then when he was saying it, I was like, oh, but I don't like doing that either. I do it because I compromised, but I don't know. Now I have to really think about, like, what are the things that I'm doing that are, and I think they
She
talked about
talks
that.
about
Yeah,
it in the book.
compromise
Yeah.
versus what was it?
Accommodating.
Accommodations. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, there are things where it's like, yeah, I do it. I mean, it is what it is. We have gotten past that in
Yeah.
a sense, but
Yeah.
if you bring it up, I might be like, don't talk about that.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's hard when there is that dynamic of like, am I compromised? Is this a compromise, or is this me just accommodating because I'm tired of saying something,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I think I'm still too early in the marriage to be tired of saying anything, because I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna wear it out, and I will say I think I've said this before, or I've said this before, knowing I've said it before. And I mean, again, we're still like learning each other, and like life is still lifing too. So again, I think for me, I kind of learned a lesson about the scorekeeping when I was studying for my exam, and like he had to do a lot more of the work. And it was just like I wanted to do it, but between my schedule, being tired, and then still figuring out like how to balance like ADHD and all this stuff, it was just like, I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. Like, I feel like I was dropping the ball, and he was just like, same thing. Like, we're same team. Like, there is no dropping the ball, and now I have the ball. It's just we're on the same team, so I got you covered, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. So in the book, they do relationship check-ins, and we thought it would be a good idea to do a friendship check-in with one another. And so the first question is, do we feel like we're being honest, transparent, and vulnerable to one another in our friendship?
You want me to start?
You can go
Yes.
first.
Yeah, honest, transparent, and vulnerable. Vulnerability always comes off as, I mean, it seems different. So I can see people thinking I'm not being as vulnerable as I could be. But I think I'm pretty vulnerable. Like I say how I feel. And like I said before, I might not necessarily know how I feel, but things don't typically bother me like often. Like if it bothers me, then I tell people like it bothers me. But if it's something where it might be like, oh, that was annoying. But if it's something that like annoys me, and it's not anything like major, it's just something like that day I could be feeling whatever way, then it's just I move on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I usually move on through like across stuff pretty quickly. Um yeah, honest. I think I'm usually pretty honest. Like that just kind of comes out. Um and then transparent too. I will say that usually I know how I am. Typically, like I always say that I'm an open book. Like that was something I've always said. But I have realized that the caveat with that is I'm an open book. You just have to get to the right chapter. Like you just need to go to the back of the index book and be like, okay. As an example, I just got a new car and I didn't mention it to everybody. But then one of our friends was like, oh, like, are you getting a new car soon? And I was like, yeah, I plan on getting a new car soon. And I was like, oh, did you order it already? And I just laughed because I was like, "Oh, yeah, I did.
Very
I
specific.
did order that." Like,
Mhm.
and it was just a very specific question. Usually, like it drops there, and
Mhm.
then that's it. Like, I'm like, "Okay, cool." And it's like, "Oh, well, when do you get it?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like another specific question. I get it
Yeah.
in February. So I'm like, "Okay, cool." So usually, if I'm asked, then I answer. So I was talking about this the other day. One of my friends at work, I remember he was like, "Oh, he used to always ask me like, "Oh, do you have a girlfriend?" And I would be like, "No," and then that was it. So then one day we were out, and then he was like, "Oh, like, are you dating?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I am." And then he was like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a girlfriend." And I was like, "Oh, I don't." And then he was like, "But you said you're dating," and I'm like, "Oh, I am." And then we just sat there, and then he's like, "I don't get it." And then our other friend was there, was like, "It's probably because he's gay." And then
Like,
he was like, "Oh, well, why didn't you just say that?" I was like, "Well, you didn't ask that, so I just answered what you asked me." Um, and it might just be like usually it's just like, okay, well, I don't know how much you want to know. I usually just answer it. Um,
And that's hard because I feel like I'm an oversharer, so I don't
same.
always want to ask a million questions. And that's probably why
Godly, yes.
I didn't.
Sorry, yeah.
That's probably why I didn't know that you were gay for
Like-
a long time because I wouldn't ask you that. Like, I don't walk up to people and ask them, are they gay? Like,
Yeah.
it's weird. So I feel like people asked you in front of me, have you had girlfriends? And you'd be like, yes. No one asked
Yeah,
you,
I
do
just-
you have a boyfriend?
yeah,
So
I just answer honestly, and then it's like,
Mhm.
well,
Yeah.
it just never got that far. So then I just never took it that far.
Yeah.
Like,
And yeah. And that might also be why we feel like sometimes we don't know that much about you and even your relationship with John. Like, I know a lot about Jess and Ronald, but I don't necessarily know the same amount about you and John.
yeah,
Not because I don't want to or because I don't care, just because in order for me to really know, I would have to ask you 101 questions, which I'm probably not going to do.
Yeah.
yeah. I think for me, it's just typically the follow up. Like, and then it might just be also like the form. Um, You know, like if we're joking and then it's just like, bam, that question, then it's like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't expecting this.
Mhm.
But I think I'm pretty open. I'll talk about whatever. It's just,
Has to be prompted.
Mhm.
yeah.
Look,
I mean,
yeah.
usually it's just not like something I just like, oh, let me turn to chapter 18 and tell you about my family history right here. Like, it's not typically how it goes for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to Ronald, especially in his husband episode where it's just like you ask him a question and he's like, no.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well, give us something. And it's just like you just have to ask the right questions. And similar, I'm an oversharer, so it's just like, what do you mean? Just share, just
Yeah.
share, talk about it. Like I think we know I am very vulnerable and transparent and honest. And I can't really not be because it shows. You all have seen moments where it's just like, okay, something is like eating away at you, like you're not yourself. And usually in those moments, I'm still trying to figure out why I'm upset. Like I haven't, and I can't articulate what's wrong or why it upset me. And usually I wait until I have that answer before I, really express anything, because I don't want to like express anything incorrectly or something that just may be what I'm feeling in the moment out of anger or sadness or whatever, frustration. But yeah, I think I strive to continually be um honest, transparent, and vulnerable in our friendship. I think I try to let you all know like um what I'm feeling, how I feel about you all, like, you know, I try to keep the communication open. But yeah, it is hard when you have to like ask questions to
Yeah.
find out more. Like, and for me it's just like there's so many questions to ask. How do I know which one is the right one?
Yeah.
Which is yeah.
Yeah. I would say I am pretty honest and transparent. Vulnerable, I would say, just because you guys know me and you can read the undertones of things, then yes. But if you're saying like the way they define it in the book, maybe not. So yeah, I think I am for the most part. So yeah. The other question, what is your biggest stumbling wait, that's what I just read. Okay. What accommodations do you appreciate? We can say each other making for you. Are there any accommodations that we've made for one another that we are like, yes, I appreciate that, or appreciate you doing this thing for me? And I think I kind of talked about it before, like when I had the kids and you guys accommodated that and moved a lot of events to my house, or like, oh, after we put the kids to bed, people come over, things like that, so that I could still be a part of things. And now that I'm a little freer, I can actually go to events. But yeah, there was a lot of accommodations made back then. I mean, there still are, because if I'm like, oh, I don't have anyone to watch the kids, everybody's like, okay, we'll just come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. If I have not told y'all that, I feel like I have. But
Yeah. I'm still like, next time we gonna be in my basement where it's nice and carpeted, and then
Yes,
nothing can go
please,
wrong.
Lord
Like,
Jesus.
I was gonna say I can have blankets down, but that went wrong last time. So
What's the source
just
of it?
carpet.
my kids
just
are reckless.
carpet.
It's okay.
I would say like when I was overseas in the beginning half, like I'm not great at like I'm great at texting, but I'm not great at like phone calls, because I just start doing other stuff. And the same thing for video calls. But they started like a group chat that was like we still talk to Shaun, and then we would video. I mean, it was a lot during the pandemic, and I really appreciated that, especially because like they were understanding that like I was 5-6 hours ahead at times, so I'd be like, all right, y'all, like
I gotta go to bed.
it's
Yeah.
bedtime for me. It's late now. Like, but thanks for staying on here, like, or whatever. So I had definitely appreciated that. I think that's accommodating.
Yeah. I know I've said it before, and I know y'all have like commented on the fact that I always talk about how I appreciate the fact that you all like come here, because I feel like I've had so many friendships in my life where they've been a matter of convenience, and so if something had changed for me, um, it was like the friendship just dissolved. So I really do like cherish the fact that, you all are willing to come visit me, that you make that effort, because for me, it feels like you actually care enough about me and the friendship. And like that's been regardless of whether I was living on campus or back in my hometown or here, it's just it was the consistency of like I have my reliable friends. They're not afraid to come visit me. I don't mind driving. Well, back then I didn't mind driving. I'm working on not minding driving as much, but here nor there. But yeah, like I've been used to going to other people, and I don't mind it, but it's a little hurtful when people don't want to visit you and they're just like, oh, you live so far away. Like that's just our situation right now, kind of thing. Or, back then it was just like, I just graduated college. Like, I can't afford an apartment or anything right now, and I'm still looking for a job, but having friends who are like, oh, well, we'll come to you, or let's meet halfway, or something like that. Like, it means the world to me, because it means you actually care about me and not just the convenience of me, kind of thing. So I appreciate y'all accommodating me.
All right. I was going to say,
I think there was one more, right?
are we doing all of them?
Oh, I don't know.
We can.
I can always cut it at.
Is there a specific
Paralyzes
you from communicating effectively?
Never mind.
No, it wasn't applicable. I didn't
Yeah,
think.
not
Cut
for
it.
us.
All right. Something I thought about is, are we going to start putting make sure you subscribe close to the beginning and at the end? Maybe not us saying it, but just
I mean, we can.
something in there. Like the little thing Jess made.
Oh, bling, bling, boom.
Yeah. Oh, I got an idea.
Subscribe.
There is something about communication that I would like to point out. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend.
Ew.
Just, had to throw that in there. So
Please do.
Yes.
that's
That is
all.
good communication.
Yeah,
though.
that
if you
is,
comment and let us know what you're thinking, because we really don't know what people are thinking about our conversations unless they comment. Shout out to Brandon, because he is loyal.
Brandon he just be
There's
waiting.
John and there's Brandon. If you're not one of
Literally.
them, like, what are you doing?
Brandon be waiting. Like, so
I love it.
like,
Yes.
when does this stuff drop? On Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, when did you listen to this? Because we like at work, and he messaging me, and I'm like,
He
Oh,
was
he
ready.
be on it.
Ready.
He
He
do.
be
I
on it.
love
He
it.
be
He
like
on.
telling you timestamps, and I'm like, I forgot I said that.
He does. And then he be recommending stuff like, well,
Oh
have
yeah, I
y'all
watched
checked out
that show
this?
too.
Like,
I did watch that show. I watched the show. It was really good. It was.
don't hype his head up.
No, but it really was.
Brandon stuff be hit or miss, and he know that. You can quote me.
Well,
I'll
I'm
agree.
1 for 1 right now. Anyways, this wasn't a Brandon bash. Cut
It's
out
always
all
a
of
Brandon bash.
cut out all of Shaun's parts, even though Shaun's editing it.
He knows I love him. I talked about him the other day to his mom,
That's sweet.
not to him though.
All right. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and catch us on the next episode.
Bye.
See
Bye.
ya. Love y'all.